Hi everyone, welcome back to Life After Neverland. My name is Karin, and today we're talking about The Chosen, Season 2, Episode 3. It wasn't too long ago that I had seen Dallas Jenkins, as well as Jonathan Rumi, the actor that plays Jesus, talking about this episode in particular and saying that it's going to be pretty special. And I have to say, I agree. So I want you guys to hang in there with me for just a few more minutes, and we're going to talk about why this episode is so touching on a whole different level. As most of their episodes are very touching, this one has a very moving, deep touch to it. Okay. All right, before we get started, I did want to give a shout out to Melissa Holden and Jay Schwartz, who have recently commented on my videos, and anyone who's watched my videos and taken the time on top of it all to leave a sweet, kind comment and communicate back and forth with me about these episodes. I just want to say thank you and how much I appreciate your time and your subscription. Anyways, so the episode is Matthew 4:24. Matthew, the beginning of the episode, is speaking to Philip. And Philip is very wise in giving Matthew some guidance. It seems like Matthew really needs some guidance in this group. And he's basically saying, believing that God is always with you, even if you don't feel it. That's the topic of conversation. And I'd love for you guys to leave comments in the comment section if you struggle with this as well. One of the things that I have been working on as of recent is faith before sight. And I do believe that there's a lot of fear going on in the world that we live in currently. So much fear. At least that's how I feel. And so I've been constantly trying to remind myself every single day that no matter what I'm seeing, although sometimes I don't feel God and sometimes I do feel fear, I have to think of my faith and I have to believe that He's here for me, for my family, and same for all of you, even though sometimes that sight can get real heavy. Later on in the episode, we see the disciples having dinner by the fire. Even Mary joins them, Mary Magdalene, as well as Mary, Jesus' mom. They're talking about their relationship with Jesus that they have now, and when they were younger, could they even have imagined that they would know Him in the way that they do, and how they envisioned it when they were kids. For example, many of them imagined Him being a warrior or stepping in, swooping in to save the day and take care of the Romans who were pressing down on them, oppressing them, and all of that. I do feel like that relates to some of the things that we're even dealing with today. I feel like we need the Messiah to swoop in, to be that warrior and save us from all of this dysfunction. What do you guys think? Now, I want you to keep in mind that in this episode, you're seeing people lined up, like by the thousands at least. I'm going to say by the thousands at least. And they're waiting to be healed by Jesus. So that's what they're kind of seeing Jesus do right now as they're learning about Him and getting to know Him and what He's doing. So that's kind of what they're seeing right now. They were also talking about fame. Now that they are disciples and they're connected to Jesus and they're spending time with Him, they're known because of their relationship with Jesus. Philip was saying that fame can also bring on enemies. So while fame could be a blessing, fame could also be a curse. And I think ultimately what he's trying to say is the disciples bear Jesus's burden. He might be famous, but he's also carrying a huge burden on his shoulders. And I think Christians have that same burden when you wear His cross, so to speak. Many times you are condemned. Many times you have enemies because you're bringing in light. And some people don't like that. They really don't. And they want to take it down. I really liked this quote that Mary had, Mary Magdalene. So she was basically saying that Jesus wasn't waiting for us to be holy before He arrived. He's here because we can't be holy without Him. So I just want you to take that in for a little bit. Pretty beautiful. And as I'm looking out here, I see a cardinal. I don't know if you watched any of my prior episodes, but I always connect a cardinal to a lost loved one or God Himself. And so I just love it. It's right outside my window. Oh, I love that. Next topic of conversation at the fireside was money. And what a big conversation that is. One in which I think we should all have this conversation with each other, because money can be the root of all evil. And Jesus even spoke about money in one of the prior episodes in season 1. And they were saying, what would you do with unlimited money? So I want to leave that question with you guys for the comment section down below. I'd really, really like to know. But Simon asked this question. He said, would you give up your left hand if it meant you'd be rich all of your life? I don't know about you guys, but I would honestly say no. And I'm trying to remember which one. One of the disciples said the same, kind of along the same lines, the same thing. And the reason why I would say no is quite simply because my husband and I have never had like a ton of money, and we've struggled too financially a lot of times. We've been kicked in the gut a million times, it feels like. But I feel like it's humbled us. It's made us better people. It's definitely made us more empathetic towards other people who are struggling. We understand when others are going through that, and we want to reach out and help them if we can, when we can. And when that opportunity comes, like for me, if I were to have money, I would want to be able to give back, because there have been people who have given to me during my difficult time, and I would like to be able to do the same and pay it forward. Now, all this while, Simon, he's pretty quiet for the most part, and then he starts going off on Matthew, because Matthew has a lot of money. He comes from a lot of money, and he was a tax collector. So he was putting a lot upon Simon. If you watch season 1, he put a lot of stress onto Simon and Andrew. They were barely able to make ends meet. And Simon had to go through a lot of drastic measures, and he feels that basically that's Matthew's fault for putting him in that position in the first place. Maybe he wouldn't have made the decisions, the desperate decisions that he had to make, had Matthew, who was privileged financially, according to Simon. And in all reality, if you think about Matthew's actual life, even though Matthew comes from a lot of money and privilege, Matthew was not happy. He was miserable, and his family actually did not treat him well at all, nor did others. So Matthew probably didn't really feel wealthy in his soul. Even though he physically had finances, he was oppressed in his own way. It's just in a different way. Now, one of my favorite parts of this episode was when Mary started talking about the birth of Jesus and what it was like for her in that experience. And I'm not going to go ahead and recap that, because in all honesty, I wouldn't even do it justice. I just want to encourage you to go and watch the episode yourself if you haven't already, because for me, that was really moving, and I shudder for the day when I see Mary lose Jesus on the cross. I'm going to leave it at that. And I really want you guys to watch this episode, because it's very, very moving. You know, a lot of the times on episodes like this where they're just kind of talking, there's not a lot of action going on. They're just talking. They're literally having a deep conversation. You know, I've seen, not specifically with The Chosen, but other TV series that I've watched, you know, people be like, well, this is really boring. You know, that was kind of a lame episode. This is moving in the dialogue alone. So touching. And one example is the disciples are talking about all of their imperfections. And I've talked about this in my prior episodes, but I think sometimes we think God wants us to be perfect, and he won't choose us unless we are perfect. And when you hear the disciples talking about their imperfections at the fireside, you realize that, you know what, God can still choose you. He doesn't expect you to be perfect, and he loves you regardless. He knows what's in your heart, and he knows what's truly in your soul. He knows us better than we know ourselves. Now, when Simon does speak up and he starts kind of going off on Matthew, and it gets a little bit heated, you start to see Jesus come back from his long day of healing, because he's not sitting there with them by the fireside. And he is exhausted to the extreme. I mean, severely exhausted, because he's been doing so much work trying to heal all these different people. And for me, that's why I think that this episode was so epic, because here you see the disciples fighting about petty things. In reality, you see Jesus giving everything he has of himself. I feel like I'm an empath. Many of us are very different, but I feel like I'm an empath. And so when I encounter other people, and I definitely want to give as much as I can, sometimes there are people that are more needy of my time and energy than sometimes I have to give. And so then when I go ahead and give it, and then maybe there's more people that need it after, especially if you're in the business of giving to others, it can really take a lot out of you. And many times I know in the past I have I'm not comparing myself to Jesus at all. Okay, but it made me think of the times when I was giving, and many times I would forget to even give to myself and my family members, the people that are close to me and the people that I love, and I would feel that sense of exhaustion. Like I would feel so exhausted that I literally sometimes felt like I didn't have anything else to give. I didn't know how to give to myself. And that's the only way that I can like look at that and like really feel what Jesus is feeling now, times that times a billion, being Jesus. And so they all kind of stopped their bickering and took a look at him to see how he was weak and nearly frail from exhaustion and helping others. And it's just kind of a little bit of a reality check about our life issues and how they actually compare to what Jesus did, the type of person that he was, and what he gave, and what he gives to us now, and what he can give in our actual lives, what he wants to give, and what he's capable of giving. It's so profound. And it really makes you think of how sometimes we forget in our daily lives what Jesus did for us, dying on the cross. And as we watch The Chosen, we're going to see more and more what he truly did for us. And it almost makes you think some of the disciples were kind of saying this, but then it puts it in reality. Like, I'm so mad at myself for taking for granted what he has done for me, and how precious life truly is, and how grateful I need to be, and how I need to get down on my knees and pray every single day with gratitude for all the beautiful blessings that I have. Even though my life isn't, everything that I might have imagined it to be, there are so many beautiful blessings that I know God has sacrificed for me in my life, where he has lifted me up and done so many wonderful things for me. So with that being said, I want you guys to go and watch this episode. It's beautiful if you haven't already. And if you have, let me know something in the comment section down below. Maybe a blessing that God has given you as of recently, or maybe something in your life where he touched your heart on such a level that your whole life was changed and you'll never go back. All right. In the meantime, everyone have a beautiful rest of your week. I'll see you next week when episode 4 pops up. And much love to all of you. Take care and God bless.